Hello and welcome, everyone. Happy holidays. My name is Marjorie Pennington, and I am the program specialist for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We are grateful you have joined us for today's Caregiver Community Connection C3, presented by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. Barb Webb, who will be primarily leading this conversation today.
Hi, everyone. My name is Barb, and I am the Missouri Dole Fellow 2020 for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I care for my son, Mark, who is 100% blind. Today's C3 episode, Champions and Allies, Caring for Blindness and Low Vision, is in collaboration with Blinded Veterans Association.
Before we get started, I wanted to mention to all attendees that this session is recorded and will be available in the Guides tab in the Hidden Heroes Caregiver Community, HHC, or on our Elizabeth Dole Foundation C3 website. With all of that said, we would like to take questions towards the end. Molly Lorinsky and I will be hanging out in the chat box. Be sure to submit any questions using the Q&A box located in the Zoom control panel. We will be taking note of all the questions to get them answered during our Q&A. Lastly, today's episode features closed captioning. If you would like to disable it, go to the live transcript button in the control panel and click Disable Auto Transcript. It can be disabled at any time during the episode.
Today, we will be selecting three winners from our live participants during the episode and one from the recording. To enter into the drawing, engage with us in the chat for both the live webinar and the recording. Today's winners will receive a $10 Starbucks gift card and holiday prizes. Now let's get started with remarks from Blinded Veterans Association, extended family, and friend of mine, Stuart Nelson, Director of Public Relations.
Thank you very much, Barb. I really appreciate that. And first off, on behalf of the Blinded Veterans Association, thank you to the Elizabeth Dole Foundation for offering this opportunity to us. And thank you for all who were in attendance today. We really appreciate you being here. Just a little bit about the Blinded Veterans Association, or BVA, as we call ourselves. It's the only veteran service organization chartered by the United States Congress that is exclusively dedicated to serving America's blind and low vision veterans. The association was founded at a Department of Defense medical facility in Avon, Connecticut, known at the time as Avon Old Farms Convalescent Hospital. That was in 1945, just months prior to the end of World War II. The founding members were a small but optimistic and resourceful group of blinded veterans. There were about 100 of them. They were in the process of recovering from injuries incident to combat in war. Their injuries included, but were not limited to, a total loss of sight in both eyes in a majority of the cases. Now, although BVA is a membership organization that encourages fellowship among those with shared experiences, needs, and hopes for the future, the organization serves all blind and low vision veterans at no cost, regardless of whether they're a member. We feature a variety of programs that assist in the fulfillment of our objective to empower dignity, independence, and self-worth, with our members serving as ambassadors and mentors for all veterans and their families coping with sight loss. These programs include a veteran service program that represents veterans with VA claims and other challenges that they have, an educational initiative known as Vet Tech that promotes assistive technology, Team BVA that offers sports and recreation opportunities to veterans with sight loss, an active presence on Capitol Hill also that continually advocates for specific needs for this unique community of veterans, and also scholarship and awards programs. BVA continually strives to better the lives of all veterans living with sight loss through expert advocacy and engaged membership, clear communication, and peer-inspired self-reliance. That's pretty good. Pretty much a summary of what we do at the Blinded Veterans Association, without a lot of detail. But without further ado, I'll turn things back over, I think, to Marjorie at this point.
Thank you, Stuart. We are so excited and pleased to feature incredible panelists from the Blind Veterans Association who will help lead this discussion. Don Overton, Executive Director. Don is in Operations Desert Shield and Desert Storm veteran. He was wounded in combat, which led to his medically retirement from the military. With over 30 years of experience, he possesses a diverse occupational background to include positions held at the federal, state, and local levels of government, not-for-profit leadership, extensive volunteer experience. He recognizes Margaret, his wife, as his caregiver. Lastly, Dwayne Disrell served on active duty with the United States Navy right after high school and a semester of college. After suffering serious injuries in his shipboard accident, he became a service-disabled veteran. For over 20 years, he has been providing claims and appeal assistance to eligible veterans of all kinds and taught many other service officers along the way how to do the same. Currently, Dwayne serves as a National Service Director of the Blind Veterans Association and manages their Veteran Service Program, VSP, which provides claims and appeals assistance exclusively to blind and low vision veterans in obtaining VA disability compensation and pension benefits, with emphasis on special monthly compensation.
Timothy Hornig is a retired Army officer, certified assistive technology instructional specialist, other words, CATIS, and licensed master of social work, LMSW. Presently serves as the chief of staff at the Blinded Veterans Association, with nearly 20 years of experiences within federal, private, and nonprofit sectors. Timothy resides in Lawrence, Kansas, with his wife and 2 daughters. Before we start the panel, we want to recognize Susan Graham. She is a Dole Caregiver Fellow 2023, who could not be here today. She has a rich story about caring for her husband, who has low vision. We will link her story to the chat to provide her perspective, and glad to have her part of the BVA family. Speaking of family, Dawn, the first question is for you. We are so proud to see BVA recognize the importance of caregivers and include them in BVA programming. Can you tell us what the impact of family support has meant to you and other blinded veterans?
Yeah, Barb, and thank you so much for the opportunity, for your continued service to our community, for all you've done for your son. As you're all too aware, Barb, you know, the transition for those of us, particularly those of us traumatically blinded during combat operations or during any level of military service, it's instantaneous. It's an instant need to try to adjust to a world that's driven, really, that's sensory driven, requiring eyesight to really participate fully in society. So almost immediately overnight, as we come back from those experiences, our family transition into that caregiver role without really any training or any preparation for any of us. There's also the other part of our community which will experience this as part of the aging process or during other types of life events. But it becomes really instantaneous, and it's every aspect of our lives. You know, I think all too often we are really an invisible part of society. Folks don't necessarily know how to interact with the blind community. They go into more of an avoidance type of a mode, and so there's a lot of challenges that are, if you can only imagine, everything from being able to dress oneself to preparing meals, transportation, huge challenges for our community, and interacting really in anything, things that most people take for granted day to day, being able to sit with your family and enjoy a television program. It becomes a whole different approach to us and what the new normal looks like for our community. And so the challenges are real. There's a lot of demands that are placed on our families, whether that's parents, spouses, siblings, as well as even our children take on the identity of a caregiver for their parents, and that can be a real challenge for us when you go from a fully functioning member of society that is performing at the highest levels in military service and find yourself all of a sudden dependent on everyone around you for the most basic functions in life. So the challenges and the struggles are real. We look for those opportunities to adapt and overcome those challenges, but family means everything. Family, friends, and the support that we get. And again, Barb, you know this all too well, ma'am.
Yes. Thank you, Don.
Wow, Don, that is so impressive. We love having champions like you in the community to highlight the importance of caregivers. Barb, do you have any thoughts?
Well, my thought is that if I wouldn't have met up with the BVA in 2013, my life would not be where it is today. And so I thank Don, because I know I met him the first time on a bus. We were together and they were making blind jokes to each other. I think the other guy was Joe, maybe. I don't remember. We went to Spokane, but I tell you what, I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. And then I started it. So thank you, Don.
Absolutely, Barb. You're phenomenal, and we truly appreciate all that you've done throughout the years.
Thank you.
There is so much work being done to advocate and greater tools to assist blind and low vision veterans. I was told by Barb and Stuart that Timothy, your work has been incredibly innovative because you bridge technology and resources for our community. What support from your family have you received to do all this amazing initiatives you do?
Okay. Well, first off, thank you very much for the invitation for us here at the BVA to speak with y'all today on the C3, because truly it takes a whole community for all of us to be able to find and identify those resources that's going to work for us, because each of our lived experience is so different and unique, because it's who we are. It's what makes us all different. And that's one of the key things that in my family's journey that has been the most interesting to observe, just the number of changes that we have done over the years. As I look at the advancements in assistive technology and other devices that's in our lives to help us out with our independence, truly technology is never enough. It always comes down to those around us. Like Don was saying, we live in a very visual world. Without the ability to see, we are missing so much. Technology cannot replace the wonderful support that my wife and my daughters do for me on a regular basis. That's anything from, hey, hon, can you go and hit the microwave to, warm something up, to as I'm playing with my daughters, trying to figure out some good ways of interacting and engaging with some of the games, or we do a lot of arts and, just trying to work all together. So technology will never be enough. Technology may help me interpret my world and understand what's around me and safely navigate, but truly without the support of my family, it just wouldn't be that. So I always look at, from my time working within the BVA, as well as time working within the VA and other times within my clinical life, I will say that caregivers are the reason, the methods by which we're able to go from rehabilitation for our blindness to carry it over into our home settings. Because what we learned from rehab, what we learned from webinars, what we learned from elsewhere, it's one thing just to learn it. When it comes down to integrating into our lives, that's where it's like we really need our caregivers to help us out. So when I look at just some of the ways that this has happened for me, there's really 10 things I want to go and highlight that my families have done for me. First is being that supportive and patient guide. Patience is going to be key because when we do have our visual impairment, we do approach life at a different pace. And that is because we just need to take that extra second to understand what is going on. So, be patient with us. Like any other recovery process, is going to take time, but it does get better with time. So patience practice is one of my key things. And it's one that my wife always says, I don't have enough patience in my life to deal with some of the things, but we always find a way of learning that. Second one's going to be, assisting with training and setup with devices. Now, I'm not asking caregivers to become experts within the devices, but definitely, you're going to see yourselves coming along as a caregiver of us to go and say, hey, okay, let's go and look at how this works so we can see how this is going to integrate within our lives, because technology is almost like bringing in another partner. And unless we all have an understanding on its capabilities, not asking caregivers to know exactly how to use it, but definitely its capabilities, it's like, how else do we integrate that partner, otherwise known as technology, into our lives? Hands-on experience is just like what I was saying just before, where it's just like, understanding what it can do is so crucial for caregivers. Because then, as I said, it helps you understand and create that partnership and integrate that technology to empower us who are blind and low vision to take that next step with our independence. Next one is going to be, provide feedback. Provide feedback to us as the individual who is blind, low vision, on how they see us integrating those devices into our lives, to even engaging with the producers, the developers of the technology. Let them know what it is that you're seeing, how it is that you wish to have alterations done, so it's not just beneficial to the individual who is blind, but also to yourselves as a caregiver. And my experience with working with a lot of developers is they love that experience from the caregiver. So, definitely be willing to speak out and engage. And I'll just go and end it with this one, is going to be, you're going to see yourself become an advocate. And part of this is going to be being an advocate when it comes down to accessibility. And it's only because we can only do so much. And so many times I do ask my wife, even though I know how to do accessibility checks and everything, where it's like, I need to ask her so often. It's like, what it is that I'm not doing, what is going on with this. And, she has come along and helped me out as I'm formulating some of my advocacy points, especially in terms of accessibility of devices, locations, everywhere, of just being able to say, hey, this is not working for us. Here's what we can use. So, you're going to see yourselves as caregivers become accessibility advocates in your own right. So with those, this is how we all work together to integrate the devices so we can develop that self-confidence as blind, low vision individuals. And y'all as caregivers are just crucial in that piece with helping us with that integration and making us feel like we're able to move forward.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. Resources are so important. I remember finding BVA and hooking up by phone with Dwayne about resources. And Dwayne, what observations have you made from helping veterans and their caregivers? How do caregivers make a difference?
Thank you, Barb. Thank you, Marjorie, for having me on. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here. When a service member is on active duty, the whole family really is on active duty, and the family's going to suffer some hardships because of it. The same idea applies when there's a seriously disabled veteran in the home. There's no doubt the caregiver program provides much needed relief to the household and restores the dignity of the family members who have sacrificed their own wants and needs to care for a loved one. So I want to talk a little bit about what we do at the Blind and Veterans Association. The Blind and Veterans Association Veteran Service Program provides VA claims assistance to blind and low vision veterans in accordance with our congressional charter. Our national service officers, who are blind, by the way, are accredited by the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to represent claimants and appellants before the Department of Veterans Affairs, including the Board of Veterans Appeals. That includes caregiver claims, which are problematic from the service officer's point of view because we do not have access to all of the pertinent documents while the claim is at the local level in the Veterans Health Administration. Not until a notice of disagreement is filed with the Board of Veterans Appeals, do the caregiver records get placed in the electronic claims file maintained by the Veterans Benefits Administration, which we do have access to. So we don't get to see all the caregiver records until there's actually an appeal filed at the Board of Veterans Appeals. I mean, that's kind of crazy. But, you know, however, as part of our claims philosophy at Blind and Veterans Association, we do everything we can to avoid the appeals process in every claim because it's so lengthy for the claimant and time consuming for the service officer. So by submitting fully developed claims with supporting evidence up front and leveraging the higher level review lane at the VA regional office, we get better outcomes without having to join the quagmire at the board. That's better for our client, better for our service officer, and even it's better for the VA. So for anyone who has been denied caregiver benefits, we recommend exhausting all avenues locally at the VHA before initiating an appeal at the board, which should always be the last resort. So you can do an administrative review, and if that's not successful, you can ask for a higher level review there at the VHA. And if that's not successful, you can, if you can come up with some new and relevant evidence, you can submit a supplemental claim. And all those things should be tried before you actually submit an appeal to the Board of Veterans Appeals. Now, because blindness alone does not qualify under the current criteria for eligibility for caregiver benefits, we do have a number of caregiver appeals at the board. Ironically, these claimants often meet or exceed the criteria for aid and attendance in their compensation claims, only to be denied caregiver benefits for not showing a need. It's kind of insulting. We have seen some board decisions. In those cases where the board grants entitlement to caregiver benefits, there are comorbid service-connected disabilities, in addition to blindness, contributing to the need for a caregiver. We have yet to see a denial from the board on caregiver benefits, and the typical outcome so far seems to be a remand to ensure compliance. And that's compliance with 5104, Title 38, United States Code 5104, regarding decisions and notice of decisions. I mean, there's 6 or 7 different things in that particular law that can go wrong in the notification. So, but we still, again, we haven't seen a denial from the board, and we do a lot of these because most of our clients are eligible for these kind of benefits. We think, like the ancillary benefits, and we believe they should be eligible for this one too automatically. But this is all anecdotal, of course, at the board. But that's what we continue to see most are remands for that 5104 compliance. Now, really, the bottom line here, what we want is for the caregiver benefit to be applied evenly to blinded veterans. We think it should be automatic in the case of a veteran whose vision exhibits 5/200ths or worse in both eyes, or contracted field of vision of 5 degrees or less in both eyes. These are the exact same criteria for a special monthly compensation at the L rate at the Veterans Benefits Administration, which is already in place in many of these cases. So anyway, if you do need help with your claim, whether it's if you're a blinded veteran or low vision veteran, if you need assistance with claims or appeals or just some advice, you can contact us at our bva.org. We have an intake form right there for claims assistance. Just leave your information there and we'll give you a call. And that's all I have. Thanks, Barb.
Thank you, Dwayne. We will now move on to our question and answer portion, but I have portion. Sorry, I said potion. Sorry. But anyways, Dwayne, I have one question. for you before we get started. You helped us out with getting the specially adapted housing grant. We had to go through a lot of, loops and hollers. And what year was that actually granted for blind veterans? I know.
Well, that's before my time, Barb. But I know that Blind Veterans Association had a hand in that.
Yes, definitely.
Back in the day, but that's been around a while. Yes.
Okay. Well, I just want to let you know that we are in our final stage of Mark's living quarters after 3.5 years.
That's awesome, and that's good news. And that's those are my favorite kind of claims when I can call someone and say, "Hey, they granted your benefit."
Yeah, it took 3.5 years to get it done, but we're almost there. So thank you, Dwayne, very much for that. Okay, and then now I will read off the first question. How do veterans qualify for VA healthcare? And any one of you can answer this question in the panel, blind veterans.
Barb, it's Don. I'll jump right in on that. Any military service today, given changes in current regulations, affords individuals the opportunity to register with VA healthcare. So it's a Form 1010 EZ that can be accessed online, or you can pretty much go to any VA medical center or outpatient clinic. The medical centers are staffed with more individuals that could assist with the completion and submission of that document. Our team can always help as well, but again, it's a pretty straightforward process. You can apply online for VA healthcare and go ahead and get a decision relatively quickly.
Thank you. Okay.
And one other part on that one, Barb. So for blinded veterans, what you are able to do, so if you're legally blind, you could qualify as a priority group 4, which is catastrophically disabled. So once you do, like Don said, and you go through the process to register, it does not matter if you have a service connection rating, but as long as you are legally blind, you qualify as catastrophically disabled, priority group 4, which then you get to waive all co-pays as well as some additional benefits. So that's a really neat thing that BVA has been a great sponsor and was able to advocate back in 2008, 2010 to make sure that we are in that priority group, regardless of your service connection rating.
Thank you. So I'm going to let Marjorie look into the second question.
All right. So my question is, what role do veterans and caregivers play in shaping policy and advocacy?
It's Don again. I'll jump on that one since I drive the majority of our policy initiatives alongside your folks up here on Capitol Hill. It's always great to be able to team and partner with your folks that are driving advocacy. Veterans and caregivers, family members play an instrumental role in really shaping all facets of policy in the advocacy arena. Serving, those of us that serve in veteran service organizations, we have veterans and family members that are working on Capitol Hill as members of congressional staff and most of the federal agencies. So across the spectrum, those agencies that we're advocating for changes within, whether it's Congress across the board, we really do shape a large portion of policy that really drives the Department of Veterans Affairs, Department of Defense, Department of Labor through the Veterans Employment and Training Services Program, Social Security Administration, so Health and Human Services, you name it. I think we're touching some of those areas, and we're doing that alongside so many different, very competent, qualified advocacy groups out there, again, with the Elizabeth Dole Foundation playing a critical role in all of our advocacy efforts right now.
Thank you for that. Barb, I'm going to hand it back over to you for the next question.
Yes. Somebody asked, what is caregiver benefits? Can anybody help us with that? Marjorie? I think it's you have to start out by getting into the caregiver program. Also the Hidden Hero Foundation, not Foundation, Heroes. They have a Facebook that you can join as a caregiver. There's a lot of information on there. It's also more of someone who's feeling down. You get on there, you ask a question, or you see somebody that makes you smile. I'm also a peer mentor for the VA, and it helps me to help somebody else. I feel that's my advocacy in me. And then I have the groups that I can call on. I think you have to keep yourself open, because if you don't, you're going to close yourself up. And I went for 5 years doing that, and I had no idea where to turn and who to turn to until I met one person from the BVA that got us right in to the BVA, just by going to Fort Leonard Wood for an event. And somebody walked up to us and asked if we learned of it. So they broadened my horizon. They made me feel more confident. I would never be where I'm at today if it wasn't for the BVA and the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. I was a pretty quiet person, very by myself, single mom. So yes, public and advocacy is one thing that you need to have in your life. You've got to have that, and you've got to have allies.
And Barb, it's Don. Just to piggyback, and I think you were addressing the caregiver benefit piece with those comments. There's additional caveats now. Several years ago, the majority of advocacy organizations lobbied Congress and lobbied the Department of Veterans Affairs for an expansion of benefits to help to support our wounded and ill veterans that transitioned off of active duty, particularly those that were catastrophically disabled. So under the PCAFC, Program for Comprehensive Assistance for Family Caregivers, that also creates an opportunity for some monetary compensation to caregivers. Unfortunately, during the rulemaking process of that legislation, we're all pretty much in agreement across the advocacy arena that it's an overly restrictive interpretation of the Department of Veterans Affairs of those benefits and how individuals qualify to receive those benefits. It's been a phased-in program. And so VA is currently in the rulemaking phase. It's multi-years for them to redo any type of rulemaking for how they administer those benefits. So they are hosting listening sessions. We've all been participating in roundtables with them, helping them to understand our unique needs. Blinded Veterans Association, obviously, looking at what we believe has been the systemic disenfranchisement of blindness from being able to access those tiers of benefits. And our sister association, Disabled American Veterans, American Legion, VFW, all the others, are also looking at the unique needs of their particular constituencies. So there are a lot of benefits that are out there. That's why it's so important, especially under the current PACT Act, more legislation that was recently passed, opening up more opportunities for folks to access care through the Department of Veterans Affairs. So again, the most important thing is anybody out there listening today, if you have not initiated contact with the Department of Veterans Affairs, do so today. If you need assistance, again, as Dwayne stated earlier, our team's happy to answer questions. You can reach out to us or any VSO out there or the VA directly. Just please touch the agency, find out what might be available to you and your family, and take advantage of the resources that are out there. Thank you, ma'am.
Don, I had one more question for you. So you've been, taking care of somebody for so many years. You were in what they call their tier levels, and all of a sudden they drop you because he can dress himself and feed him. So I've already lost my appeal. How do you reappeal for something like that?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. And Dwayne touched on that earlier, and it's really pursuing every level that we can. And that's where the system, unfortunately, is broken right now. Congress is aware of the fact. It's why the Department of Veterans Affairs themselves has stepped back into the reevaluation of rulemaking to find a better path forward. I think our biggest challenge, what we're seeing right now is, Dwayne did touch on this earlier, most benefits are administered by the Veterans Benefits Administration, right? So folks that are out there, VA has three primary functions, right? The Veterans Health Administration that provides our health care, Veterans Benefits Administration that determines our levels of benefits that we're entitled to, and they help to award those. And then the National Cemetery Administration for our end of life planning and needs. The problem is when they did caregiver, they moved caregiver into the Veterans Health Administration. It's a clinical evaluation. And what we've seen is inconsistency across the country. These teams, while well-intentioned, they have different levels of interpretation, of need, of benefit. We don't think that that's the best path forward. It kind of flies in the face of what VA has traditionally always done. So we're hopeful that eventually this moves back over to the Veterans Benefits Administration, that there's a very clear-cut path forward. Because again, Barb, somebody in a situation such as yourself that's provided that level of care, they're not taking into consideration, right? Just because, and we'll just use blindness, that's what we're focused on right here. Because I can put both feet into a pair of pants and put those pants on doesn't necessarily mean that I can identify clothes that match. It doesn't necessarily mean that I can care for those clothes. And there's so many other facets that go into things. No different than, right, they're driving everything around activities of daily living. I might be able to feed myself, yes, but one of the things that I would ask everyone out there, if you ever want to experience, and we'll do this in a very safe way, we call it dining in the dark. Take an opportunity next time you go to have a meal, do us a favor and experience the world from our perspective, right? Just close your eyes and try to eat that meal, sitting down, no sharp knives, so don't eat a steak, something simple, but just eat that meal without the use of any eyesight and see what the challenges are, right? And that's the whole thing. Yes, I can feed myself, but can I necessarily safely prepare those meals? Can I read the expiration dates on packages if I'm living alone? There's so many of these different variables that go into whether or not we can safely go through life without the support and assistance of somebody else. And those are the unique challenges for blindness, just some of them that are out there. But Barb, you're right. That's what we're hoping to accomplish in the rulemaking. That's what we're all working with Congress on, is trying to get a better interpretation and a more uniformed application of determinations around who qualifies for these benefits.
Thank you, Don.
Absolutely. And I would just add that if anybody is looking to apply for caregiver benefits, your first stop should be your local VA and connecting with a caregiver coordinator to start that application. It's very important, to have that support through your caregiving journey. Barb, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm very good. Everything's great. Thank you. So we have some giveaways. Congratulations to some winners. Please email us directly at events@elizabethdolefoundation.org with a good mailing address, and we'll get special prizes out to you. The winners are Flora Melvin. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce this next one right. It's Kipnegit. KIPNGETICH. KIMENTO is the next winner. And then I have again Flora Melvin. Is there a third one, or did I miss it?
The third one is Robert Stephenson.
Okay. I had two Floras. Rob. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right, those are the winners. Marjorie, I'm gonna leave it up to you next.
All right, Barb. BVA team, we want to thank you for your time today in sharing your incredible resources for our hidden heroes. And we would also like to congratulate our winners, which is pretty amazing. Barb?
Congratulations, guys. If you are not already registered with the HHCC, we encourage you to join our Facebook group for updates. Our group is an inclusive community for military and veteran caregivers and of all service eras. If you care for a wounded, ill, or injured service member or veteran, We would love to welcome you into our community. Visit hiddenheroes.org/register to get started.
And everybody be on the lookout for a follow-up email from us that will include today's recording of the meeting and BVA resources and organizations info and the link to our register to register for Hidden Heroes. Barb?
Yes, thank you everyone for joining us today. And a big thanks to our partners at Wounded Warrior Project for supporting our C3 series. We hope you enjoyed today's C3. Thank you. Goodbye, guys. Thank you all so much.
Thanks, Barb.
Thank you, Barb.
Thank you. Take care, guys.